Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 241 for the week of December 29th, 2015. Last episode of 2015. Hooray. I, of course, am Ryan Higgins, and I am joined, as always, by, well, not as always, but usually, occasionally, sometimes, by
Lane Terasaki.
Hello, Lane.
And Charlie West.
Hello, Charlie. Light podcast this week, we're going to have our top three picks for comic books, Marvel, DC, and Independent, of course. TV shows, movies. Toby is here. He may jump on the mic. We're not sure. Next week, Brock, Bryce, they're going to give us their lists. Maybe Toby next week instead, because I think he's still working on his list here. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to get right to saying hello to everyone. Hello.
Howdy.
How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
How was your holidays?
My holidays was very well. How was yours, Charlie?
Good.
Fantastic.
Got lots of animated DC.
Oh, like just what? Like the Blu-rays? Or?
Yeah, the Blu-rays of Justice League Unlimited and Teen Titans Go and Batman the Brave and the Bold and just lots of animated DC.
Nice.
I was happy.
And you watched it all already, haven't you?
Some of it.
I had a list of every DC live action and animated release, whatever the most current format is, so Blu-ray or DVD. But I didn't keep up with it because I still have most of them, but I started to slip because I feel the Blu-rays for like Brave and the Bold and Teen Titans just a little too expensive, so I haven't jumped on them yet.
Yeah, it's because of the like Warner Direct stuff that they do. The Teen Titans Go was cheap last week, though.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was like $17.
I missed it. Oh,
well, I sent you like a screen cap of the fact that they were putting some of that Warner Direct stuff on like a deal of the week on Amazon.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
I saw that, but I couldn't. I couldn't tell what I was looking at. I was like, oh, sales on Amazon. I'll check this out later. I didn't realize it was the DC stuff. Well, crap. I missed out.
Most of it wasn't as extremely discounted as I had hoped.
Where DC Warner Brothers Archives? I know you're listening. Where is my goddamn 2 seasons of Legion of Superheroes on Blu-ray? What is wrong with you people? You put out the worst garbage that's ever been animated, and yet that amazing show, not out, never been released. Only, I think, the first 9 episodes were ever released on DVD. Like those crappy, 3-episode...
I'm pretty sure they finished the first season on DVD, but I don't think they put out any of the second.
No. Yeah, no, they absolutely did not put out any of the second.
Yeah.
I only remember those crappy little, 3 episodes for $5 each or something.
Oh, I'm talking about those, but I mean, they did enough releases to make it through the first season.
Okay, even Green Lantern got a full release, and that was that was canceled after 1 season.
That was also fully easy to transfer to HD.
Yeah,
yeah. But it's like they haven't put out the 3rd season of Brave and the Bold yet.
Yeah.
The first 2... They have all of Young Justice.
They just put out Justice League, though, or Unlimited.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
And, I mean, they had already put out Justice League Season 1 and Justice League Season 2 under, a mass release, not a, direct through Warner. And even those had a really long wait between, releases. So
weird.
I'm still hoping they will go backwards and do more of the Tim stuff, though.
Yeah. Lane, how was your holiday season?
Good.
Besides those amazing shirts you got from us, or you got for us, I should say. Yeah. We didn't. I don't think we really talked about this in the Star Wars episode, but Lane made all of us. We'll take some photos and put them up. These fantastic shirts. I'm going to burn mine, of course, but these fantastic parody shirts of all of us and our wonderful podcast personalities. So
they are amazing.
Yeah.
I'll post pictures of the images if you want.
Yeah, post it on the Facebook group.
I'll upload it to the Facebook group.
Yeah, totally. Excellent.
And see how many people request shirts.
Yeah, I'm worried about
how many people want Ryan's shirt?
Oh, I'm worried about mine. Mine, I'm going to burn to the ground. Sorry, Lane. I love it, but I hate it.
I totally want every customer of the shop to order a Ryan shirt and just start walking in here every Wednesday.
I do love it though.
That would be the best April Fool's for the shop ever.
Yeah.
If every single customer on a Wednesday came in with that shirt.
I'm just never going to work here on April Fools, just ever. That's just never going to happen. Yeah. Did you do anything? Anything special? Anything fun?
No, just family. Family's all in town, so visited my nephew.
It's cool.
Yeah. Got to watch him play with all his toys.
Nice. Yeah, he plays with his toys, right?
Yeah.
You didn't play with any of them. I was lucky, so this is my last real Disneyland trip, although we are going in a couple of weeks, but not for like a real amount of time. Our annual pass runs out, and we're not going to renew it because we're going on our honeymoon and other stuff going on this year. So we're going to... Although I still plan to go down to Disneyland occasionally. This was our last like real trip to Disneyland. They had all the Seasons of the Force stuff, so all the weekend of Star Wars coming out. Mm-hmm. So they had all the big Star Wars stuff. I'm sporting my sweet new Boba Fett jacket I got when I was down there. Hell yeah, Boba Fett hoodie. Yeah, if you get a chance to go down, they have all the Star Wars kind of meet and greet area with Chewbacca, Darth Vader. And at least Boba Fett, I don't know if they rotate other people in and out, because they're just kind of wandering. And there's like First Order stormtroopers walking around and stuff too. But with Boba Fett, he was just kind of hanging out. And people were and they were like, if you want a picture, just go up and talk to him. There's no like line. So it was weird. I don't know if they're just rotating out different characters, but...
I'm just waiting to find out that it was just a bunch of cosplayers hanging out at Disneyland.
God, it might have been. Who knows?
No, I think it'd be better if they were pin traders. He has to go trade with Boba Fett.
No, Boba Fett was pretty cool. So, yeah, if you get a chance, definitely go down for that. That was a lot of fun. They did a good job with that whole area. So,
when are they going to finish the Star Wars section?
They haven't even started it yet.
Oh, but they haven't announced when they're going to finish?
No. So we're going down. We're going down for something else. But while we're going to spend like an extra day or two and go down to Disneyland because we're going to be there right after everything closes. So they're closing for 12 to 18 months, about a fifth of the park, including the entire back area where they have all the, well, right now it's like the Rivers of America, so the river's drained, the boat, the pirate ship, all that's gone. The Grizzly Rapid, what do they call it? The, like the Frontierland stuff, like not the rides, but the back half, all that's gone. And they're closing the railroads for a year, which is a really big deal because they run that thing every day, and that circles the whole park. So, a lot of big stuff. It's gonna be weird, and I kind of want to see it as this was a great last like real trip, but I kind of want to like sneak in and be like, oh, the park's in fucking shambles for 18 months. So, and then it's gonna be years before Star Wars is open, like 2020 maybe. Yeah, I mean, it took them like 3 or 4 years to build Cars Land, and I think the Star Wars Land is like twice the size. So it's going to take a long time for them to build it. Something like that. It's.
So they raised the annual pass price to get half a park.
Well, it's interesting having gone there this year and seen both the dead of the early part of the year before all the 60th anniversary stuff started, during the whole measles outbreak. Remember that? So I was there during that, and the park is dead and empty. And then to see just the madness that was Christmas and summer, they are literally too popular. There are too many people in the park. It's wearing down the rides too fast. The Disney prides itself on its sort of this amazing customer service. You can't have customer service if every employee is taxed and working way too hard. There's too many people. Everyone's kind of getting mad. The belief along, at least from sites I've read and some, more level-headed people seem to think they are intentionally trying to get the crowds out to sort of give themselves and their staff a break. And plus, some people will buy it anyway, so they can raise the price 30%, and enough people will still buy it. They're not going to lose too much money. But I expect when we go there, it'll be a week after everything shuts down. I expect the park's going to be fucking empty, comparatively to how it's been. So my only regret is I don't get one last ride on Haunted Mansion because it's going to be gone. It's going to be they're switching between the Night Before Christmas and the regular. It comes back up right after we leave. So, oh well, that's fine. I'm sure I'll sneak down there some weekend, just on my own. So not on my own, but without with Leanne, but without the pass, right? I mean, just as a normal, not a annual pass holder. So what are you gonna do? Yeah. Anyway, holidays. We have New Year's coming up, so if you're going anywhere for New Year's, be safe, drive safe, don't drink too much. But we are going to talk now about our top Marvel, DC, independent comics of 2015. Honorable mentions: top 3 TV shows, top 3 movies of the comic book and sci-fi / genre-ish. Lane, yes. Why don't you start us off with Marvel?
Marvel? Okay.
If you have an order, you can go 3, 2, 1. If you don't, you can read them in any order. Why don't you give us your top 3 Marvel comics for 2015? If you have 3, that is. I know you're not Bryce.
Yeah,
you're not going to read the wall.
But actually, sadly, I don't have that many Marvel books on my list, or that I read in general, so it'll be pretty simple.
That's all right.
Right now I have Punisher, Thor, and then the main Star Wars book.
Okay.
I also put down like honorable mentions to the Vader book, the Old Man Logan, just because it was short.
Yeah.
And the Invincible Iron Man's only 3 issues, so.
So you're talking about the Bendis.
The new one,
The Bendis one, yeah. So Thor, I mean, between the kind of female Thor run that's been going through the most of this year, and now the Thors.
It's only been, 6 issues this whole year?
Yeah. Well, you had the Thor stuff, so.
I didn't read the Secret War stuff.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it tied in very loosely to everything that was going on, so it still kind of had a hook to keep you engaged if you were previously reading the series.
Yeah. I definitely like Punisher a lot, too, so, yeah.
Yeah, I was sad to see it end. I was hoping it'd be back, but not yet.
Yeah. Well, that was very short, but sweet. Charlie, you got a top 3 Marvel list?
So top 3 is going to be Silver Surfer at number 1, just because I love that book.
I think it was that your pick number 1 last year,
Probably.
too? I think it was.
Doesn't matter. It's a good book.
So that's Mike Allred
and Dan
art
Slott.
and Dan Slott writing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just a really, really solid team for a Surfer book.
And I think the new series starts next week. It's soon. It's really soon. It's next couple weeks.
Dan Slott on Amazing Spider-Man has continued to be amazing.
What do you think like in this relaunch so far?
So far, yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those things where little bits with the relaunch make me wonder how much I may be reading into it, just because I don't think things progress directly from the way these series ended to where they are now. I think there was a shift in reality. I don't think Parker overcame his company on the verge of bankruptcy and then went to Secret Wars and then suddenly is one of the most successful companies in the world. I think there was a shift in reality in there that I'm looking forward to getting more of an insight on as they actually end Secret Wars.
Okay. I like it. To me, when he took over at 700, or the lead up to 700, awesome. Superior, one of my absolute favorite books. The relaunch started okay, and then it got better, and by Spider-Verse, it was fantastic again. And then you had Brand New Day, or what is it? What was the miniseries? The Secret Wars miniseries.
Oh, the One More Day.
One More Day. Is that what it's called? I'm telling you, I don't.
Renew Your Vows.
Yeah, Renew Your Vows.
Renew Your Vows.
It was all right, and then the relaunch started. It was like, this is good, but not hitting those same highs for me that the last one did. I think, but we're still early, only a couple issues in.
And then of course the Thor book has just been really, really good, and that's one of those things where either when they do a huge shakeup of a character, like with going to Superior Spider-Man or that kind of stuff, either it works or it doesn't, and this one is working very well. So, and in terms of my honorable mentions, very less serious books, but I love them all. I love everything they were doing on Rocket to Groot and Howard the Duck, and all those books are really fun books.
Yeah, I do love Howard the Duck. The Groot series didn't click with me the same way the Rocket Raccoon did.
But they had a surfer issue and everything.
Yeah, they did. All right, my number 3 Marvel comic for 2015 is, I feel like I've had some variation of this on my list probably every year. This is Ant-Man by Nick Spencer and Ramon Rosanas. I can't say enough about Ant-Man. I've loved that book. I love Superior Foes of Spider-Man prior. Very similar feel. Again, Ant-Man's been one of those books that suffered under the sort of start-stop of Secret Wars, but, I'm not going to let that deter me. It's one of my favorite books. Number 2, Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca. By far, I think the best of the Star Wars books. I love the main title, Lane. I know you had on your list, too, but, man, that Darth Vader book is something special. The Darth Vader, I feel, is a tough character because it can't just be random. It can't be evil for no reason. It can't just be evil, right? Because you don't want to read a story about that. They do
it'd be different.
What's that?
It'd be different.
Yeah, but I feel like you still have to, even the bad guy, you still have to kind of, you want to see them succeed, right? And Vader, they can't do too much between the movies because they are trying to stay in some sort of continuity. But I feel that they do such a good job of introducing new good and bad guys for him to sort of fight against in various fashions. Plus, there's him and the Emperor. The Emperor is almost like his bad guy, right? I mean, they do such a good job of you're learning so much more about Vader, I feel, in this than most of the other comics I've read. And it helps that they're working directly with Disney and Lucas for these comics.
And having just sort of rewatched the movies and stuff leading up to episode 7, it fits in really, really well.
Yeah. My number one book, of course, one of the most positively reviewed comics of 2015, everyone's favorite book. That, of course, is The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl by Ryan North and Erica Henderson. I'm totally serious, too. This is my favorite book of this year. I love Squirrel Girl so much. It is so funny. Everyone I know hates it here. I love this book. It's just so quirky. Even when in a couple of weeks we're going to jump back on our Marvel reviews from the number ones from the last few weeks. She shows up really briefly in the Star Brand comic that came out last week.
That's great.
That's like the best scene in the comic, and it's not even written by. But it's just like, oh, it's Squirrel Girl, so of course it's the best scene in the comic. It was so funny. Yeah, I really like that book. Much like Howard the Duck, Charlie, this is a book that's goofy, it's funny, it's in continuity, but who cares? But man, the running gag of the Deadpool trading cards, if any of you have seen that pop up in the show, she has all these. Deadpool has a series of like supervillain trading cards with like their powers and stats and weaknesses, and so she's always like pulling out these trading cards to look at them and be like, "Oh, that's that guy." I don't know. This book is so funny. I love it. I will also, just because I think it was on my list last year, honorable mentions. I got a couple here. Thor by Jason Aaron. Again, everything we've said can't about this book the entire year. Still one of my favorites, and only 2 issues have come out so far, so I would feel bad picking it for our top three list. But The Vision by Tom King is absolutely, I expect, will be one of, if not my top book next year, assuming it sticks around for more than 6 issues. I love the Vision book so much, so please go check it out, support it. I hope it gets back past 6 issues. All right. We're going to move on to DC. Why don't we go backwards? Why don't I start here, and then we'll go back over to Charlie and Lane. DC's been in a weird year this year. There's been a lot of restructuring. I found like they're trying to find their place again. They've had some relaunches, some more successful than others, some kind of more, kind of higher tier. But even if all the DCYOU books is what they're calling them, having clicked at least sales wise, a lot of them have been very good, just review wise, and I think personally great books. So I'm really curious to see what they got planned for next year. But from 2015, my number 3 book, Harley Quinn by Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti. Very funny book. Very different than Squirrel Girl, but I like it in a very similar way. It's no continuity. It does whatever it wants to. It's funny. It's just witty. I mean, obviously a very different style, but to me it has a lot of the same qualities. And it's Harley. Who doesn't love Harley? Number 3, if you asked me maybe a couple months ago, it would have been a different. Number two book, not number 3. My number 2 book would have been something different, but one of those DCU books really caught me off guard with how much I've liked it, and that's Martian Manhunter by Rob Williams and Eddie Barrows. The Martian Manhunter book is fantastic, and if you haven't been reading it, I highly recommend it. I like Martian Manhunter, but I don't normally love him. The first issue was just what the fuck is going on? I mean, it was just totally caught me off guard. And I don't want to spoil too much of the sort of mystery of the first couple issues, but you're slowly introduced to the various elements of the Martian Manhunter until I think like the 5th or 6th issue when it kind of all sort of comes together, and now you sort of have like, you still have the Martian Manhunter's there, but there's still like elements of him running around. It makes more sense if you read it, but very cool book. I really, really like it. So I, again, can't recommend that high enough. But there's only one book better than that this year for me. And that has been, of course, Justice League by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. I've liked Justice League since it started. Some arcs have been better than others. But this Darkseid War, easily my favorite comic of this year. Not from any company. So a couple of my honorable mentions are books that are not entirely from this year, and they were also on my list from last year. But is stuff released entirely in 2015. The Justice League Darkseid War, which, we have, like, issue came out today, and I think there's like 3 left in the main arc. But I have, I think it ends at 50. But I have loved this book. This has taken Justice League to an even higher level for me. If you love the space stuff, if you love Darkseid and Anti-Monitor, and just, man, when all the other DC books are off doing their weird things with the characters, Justice League is still kind of on kind of a normal path with these characters, where it's definitely a much more traditional take. So, of course, honorable mentions: Multiversity by Grant Morrison and various other people. I would feel bad picking it again because it would it would have been Justice League, Sandman, and Multiversity. I think that was my list last year, right? It'd be the exact same list. So I had to throw some other books in there. But of course, Multiversity ended this year, as well as Sandman Overture by Neil Gaiman and J.H. Williams. Fantastic titles, some of the best comics ever made. You must read those, especially Multiversity. Oh man, that book is so good. And Omega Men, which would have been my pick, but I think Martian Manhunter eclipsed it just a little bit. By Tom King and was it Barnaby Bagenda? So Omega Men, fun space book, very similar to not similar to Justice League, but I'm a space guy, so I like those characters. Charlie, what you got?
So I'll just get the one we have in common out of the way right off the bat, and that's Justice League. Of
course,
because Jeff Johns, there was no way it wasn't going to be on my list.
It's been so good.
Well, it's been good because of Jeff Johns' strength for me has always been embracing all the continuity and all the craziness within comic books and not shying away from it. And this does that just in massive ways. And even to the point where they sort of, early in it, talked about the whole forming of the multiverse and the different realities. And I eat all that stuff up. I love the fact that he, as a writer, does exactly what writers seem to be told not to do. And that just goes right head into the continuity and right out the other side. And it works really, really well for longtime readers. So my next two are kind of a duo for me, because I kind of flip-flop back and forth on which one I enjoy more, because I think I enjoy them on different levels. And that's sort of the Batman by Scott Snyder, and then the Detective with the Buccellato team, just because I love the two different perspectives you get between those books. I love a lot of what they do with sort of crafting the characters and the art and all that in Detective. Like, I actually prefer the art in Detective more than I prefer the art in Batman, just for my own personal art taste. And they're both just sort of spot on for the characters, but where Batman, rightly so, is very Batman focused. It's all sort of from a Batman perspective. Detective tends to take a different perspective, whether or not it's Harvey Bullock's perspective or the villain's perspective. Like, it jumps perspective around a bit, but it's always extremely solid.
It tends to be more focused on like the GCPD aspect of Gordon being Batman.
Yeah, and I like that. I really, really sort of like the way those books complement each other. And so for those, I had to give sort of 2 and 3. But in terms of my honorable mention, kind of going back to what you said with Harley Quinn, for me, it's like any of the DC books that Palmiotti's doing. And there's 3, 4 now? 4?
He's doing Harley's Little Black Book.
Isn't Harley Power Girl still going on?
Well, Harley's Black Book was spun out of Harley.
Okay,
Harley
and then Starfire.
Yeah, and then Starfire.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But yeah, all those books have a very similar tone, but the quality has stayed consistent, regardless of how many he's putting out, and I love that.
Yep. And he's doing like 3 or 4 independent books at the same time.
Yeah.
Dude, puts out a lot of stuff. Lane, what's your DC list?
Well, it's actually a little weird because much as I love DC, I'm really behind on reading.
Yeah, I hear that.
Surprisingly, I don't have a Justice League on because I'm really far behind on that. So
I'll allow it.
Sadly, I think number 3 was more just a toss-up for me because I needed... The big one here is art.
Sure.
So 3 was... because I think it's this year, right? Superman Unchained?
I think it finished this year. Yeah.
And that's only because Jim's on art, finally.
That's fine.
Because he doesn't do enough art.
Yeah. He's doing those covers, but that's about it.
Yeah. But I want interiors.
Yeah. He doesn't do enough.
Number 2 is... Well, it's both years, so it's the Eternal books. So the Batman Eternal, now the Robin and Robin Eternal.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably going to be on Toby's list. I know he's loved that. I actually haven't started it. I'm still I'm trying to like catch up on certain books at a time. So that's one of the next ones I'm going to start catching up on.
And for anybody who gets confused on reading order, so does Ryan.
Yeah. What? Why?
You called me on Sunday trying to figure out the reading order on Earth 2.
Oh, no. It wasn't so much the reading order. There was there were issues of Constantine that tied in with the World's End stuff, and I couldn't find online if they actually put those issues into the World's End trades, because I read conflicting reports on the reading order of that stuff, and it was some people were like, "Oh, it takes place after these issues," and some people were like, It's actually completely contrary to what happens in the issues featuring him, so they're 2 completely different stories. It doesn't matter because they don't. Not only do they not intersect, they actually kind of contradict each other. So it's just it doesn't matter which way you read them. So it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'll just read it normal then, because that's the Earth 2 Constantine stuff for the last arc. So,
okay.
Yeah, Batman Eternal was great. I'm very excited to start Batman and Robin Eternal.
Yeah, Batman and Robin has been really fun, especially Toby will elaborate for hours on the Return of Cassandra.
Yeah,
and just it's just been fun. Like both of them are just straight fun.
Yeah.
And I like the use of flashbacks in that book a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then number 1 is, I think, kind of obvious, the same as Charlie. So it's the Batman book. And then my backups would be the same as like Multiversity finishing. I actually like the beginning of Convergence, not the end. And I'm just talking the main book, not the event.
So I think Convergence gets a bit of a bad rap. I thought that was pretty decent.
Yeah.
As far as events goes, it's not going to top my list, but I liked it. Yeah, I really think that book gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
I think it was really good for a 2-month event. Like it was quick and done.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. As we're still waiting for Secret Wars number 9 to ship. 2 weeks, baby.
And then the last one I have is the All-Star Section 8.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Just because it's limited now.
Yeah,
it's just been fun as hell.
Hell yeah. Good to see Garth Ennis come back.
Yep, exactly. And McRae.
John McRae.
He disappeared for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know what that's been doing in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Capullo leaving Batman? Did that worry you?
No, there's plenty of great artists at DC now.
Did you hear the rumor of them double shipping a bunch of DC books next year?
Yes.
We'll talk about that probably more in a week or two when maybe we'll have actual info about that. I don't know. But April.
There's a lot of weird kind of rumors floating around right now because of the coming up on issue 51 and 52 and all that. So
yeah, I think if it's what are we at 48s now? What's this month? Yeah, it's 47.
Yeah.
So 48, 50, 51, 52. So that'd be May. So like June would be when everything switches to 53 if they decide to keep going. So yeah, I'll be very curious. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, they have a lot of good artists, and I think Capullo, if they want to double ship Batman, which sure, why not? I mean, Marvel double ships tons of stuff, and it didn't affect their sales hardly at all. If they feel they can do it, then by all means do it. But it's not going to be by Capullo. There's no way. That dude's so slow. He could do monthly with some fill-ins, but there's no way. I mean, unless they get him to do 6 issues in the can or something. But yeah, it's not going to happen otherwise. So, all right.
I don't know. For me, it's all a little bit more about the writer. So
Yeah.
Not to mention, it just means they can announce that omnibus any day now.
I'm sure they will. All right, Toby, why don't you start us off with your independent list here? I'm sure you've got a handful of indie comics that you enjoy from...
Toby?
Oh, did I say Toby? Did I say Toby?
Yes, you did.
Sorry, I meant Charlie. Toby, you can tell us if you want to, but I meant Charlie.
We're so interchangeable. So, same as last year, even though it comes out so bloody slow, is Velvet.
So, I actually just... I think that last issue came out like in February or March. There hasn't been that many issues this year.
I know.
Because I just like did my last change for the next issue, which I was like looking at. It was an April order form, and it was supposed to be out like in October, and it's December, and it's not even out yet. So who knows what's going on with that?
Yeah, it does frustrate me how slowly it's coming out, and like every time another issue comes out, and I look at the issue, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is taking forever. But I mean, they've all been good. And I've got a lot of enjoyment out of them so far. And going back to sort of the lighter side of comics that I always love, I Hate Fairyland has just been a lot of fun. Really messed up, and I can't wait for a nice collection, a nice hardcover of it. Like, hands down, I will buy that in an instant. And last one, kind of going back to the more sort of serious side, The Twilight Children has also been really, really good, and I've enjoyed that.
That's Vertigo. That's not independent.
I don't care. It's close enough.
Well, in that case, Twilight Children's really good. It's
Darwin Cook.
Yeah, Darwin Cook on the art. One of the Hernandez brothers writing. Yeah, that. Well, if we count that for honorable mentions, that would be one of my honorable mentions because I really like Twilight Children. Yeah, very interesting. I think we talked about this a handful of episodes back.
Probably
very interesting story.
Yeah,
so far.
And I mean, the reason why I threw it in indie, even though it's, as you said, is technically published under DC, is...
Vertigo's. I mean...
It's... This tone of the story and all that basically means it could have been published under any publisher. It kind of falls under that standalone indie category that I kind of put it in.
Right. Lane. Oh. You got a few indie books, I'm sure.
Yeah, plenty. Although I was going to... stay away from the tried and true of repeating what was last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are still on the board. But to be different this year, it's only 3 issues in for a full year. But one of my favorite, number 3, is the Dying in the Dead.
Okay,
which is the Hickman book.
Yeah. Which again, talk about another book off schedule.
Exactly.
Yeah, what happened in that book?
I have no idea when it's coming out or when the next one's coming. It's just there it is. 2 would be Descender. It's the art, and
I need to catch up on that. I'm so far behind on it.
Yeah, I haven't caught up to the last few, but just
well, hey, a trade's already out. That's always nice.
And hardcover's on the way.
I can't wait.
Yep. And number 1 for me this year was actually Injection, the new Warren Ellis book, and the old Moon Knight team. Just it's been very, very fun and interesting. Kind of has a planetary feel.
Okay.
And now I'm sold.
I have heard that. I kind of go back and forth on Warren Ellis's indie work. So,
yeah, I think this is probably one of his more consistent indie works. Like it's at least it's straightforward. Kind of, it's not all over the board like some of his other stuff.
Yeah.
And like that, it has a bit of a planetary feel with the magic and of course the usual grumpy characters.
Yeah.
And it's just been fun.
Cool. Any honorable mentions on that list?
Well, besides the typical saga in East of West,
I
was gonna say I like Invisible Republic. It's a bit different. It's a slower book, but it's been very interesting. And then one that just came out is Monstrous, which is mostly just
the
art's amazing in that book from Sana Takeda.
Yeah,
finally seeing her actually paint as opposed to just get away from her standard painting of other characters. Like, it's more real manga as opposed to the American comic characters in manga style.
Right.
And then the writing's been interesting too. So
cool.
I mean, it's an independent book, so I don't know where it's going, but it's been fun.
Yeah. I definitely feel like I don't read as many indie books as I used to. Part of it is just, I don't know, there's a lot going on these days. I don't read it nearly... I mean, I still read a lot of books, but I feel like I don't read quite as many as I used to. But there's definitely A bunch of good independent books I read this year. Number 3 on the list, Archie by Mark Waid and Fiona Staples. I wasn't sure how that relaunch was going to go. I've never been, a huge fan of Archie. I thought Archie, what was the zombie one? That's apparently not coming back. I have no idea what's up with that. But Afterlife with Archie, yeah. That was one of my favorite books, last year, year before. But, man, that book just, it's basically dead, no pun intended. Very happy with the new Archie series. Modern take on Archie and Veronica and Jughead and all those guys. It treats you respects the original takes on the characters, but modernize them, does different stuff with them. Will it last forever? Who knows? I mean, maybe they'll go back to the more traditional route at some point, but I think it's good. Mark Waid does a good job of kind of capturing the essence of Archie and those characters with that sort of, John Hughes approach, modern, but again, 2015 doesn't feel out of place. It only got released here this year, so I'll put it on the list, but there's a ton of work by this guy. The book here was called Mox Knox. I don't know if it's Joan or Joanne. I think it's like Joan. It's Brazilian. I don't remember where he's from. Cornella. This guy, you have to track down this guy's work. I remember talking about it on the podcast a while back. These 6-panel comic strips, the most fucked up stuff you'll ever see. So funny, so messed up. It's got this very simple, cartoon is not quite the right word for it, this very simple art style, but man, so funny. Mox Knox was the book that was released in America this year. He has, there's no dialogue, or there's very occasionally there's text in it, but almost no text. So it's not like you need to get it in English. And there's nothing to read. But so weird. You just go. He's got a very active Twitter account. Everything he posts for free online, and then he has a collection of his work. So definitely read that. It's so bizarre. And then my number 1. I wasn't sure when it started. I thought, okay, this is interesting, and then I got to that last page of the first issue, and I went, "Yep, you sold me." And now we're a couple issues in. Hopefully, it continues for a while, and that is Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chiang. I didn't want to just, I figured most people will have Saga on their list for the 5th year in a row or whatever, right? But Paper Girls hit me a little bit more than I think Saga has. I really dig these first couple of issues so far. And I love Cliff Chiang's art. He's such a good artist. Plus it's got that, they're in the 80s, so it's got, alien science fiction, but, and the kids are from the 80s, so I appreciate that a little bit. So, definitely, yeah. If there's any series I'm looking forward to finishing off the first arc, for next year, it's Paper Girls, so. Couple honorable mentions. Would have been higher on my list, but he's not doing as much of the book as I wish he would, and now he's completely off the title. That's Invader Zim by Jonan Vasquez. I really wish he was doing the book, because he was doing some art on it, or he was doing the covers and some writing in it, and now he's just completely off the book. Maybe he's still producing it, quote unquote, but fun title. If you like the cartoon, definitely check it out. James Bond, the Warren Ellis one, but Dynamite. I'm only a couple issues in, but I really like those first few issues. I wasn't sure. I figured Ellis would have a good take on him, and he does. And not to jump on Brian K. Vaughan's jock too much here, but We Stand on Guard by Brian K. Vaughan and Steve Skroce. Fun 6-issue miniseries. Weird. America versus Canada, the Great War between America and Canada. Really, it kind of funny, kind of quirky, but not intentionally, not humorous funny. It's it's just kind of messed up funny. Great art. I love Steve Skroce. Good to see him on a kind of more not traditional title, but doing 6 issues in a row. I'm pretty sure he did all 6. So
yeah, he did.
I don't know if there's any intent on bringing him back and doing more, but I like that a lot. So there we go. Next year's going to be weird. With the Marvel relaunch, a lot of people a lot of stores are seeing very soft sales on it. I think Secret Wars hurt a lot, much in the same way Convergence hurt DC quite a bit. The Marvel or the DCU relaunch did not go so well. None of those titles really took off. Marvel and DC, they got, Star Wars was huge. Secret Wars is still a big title. The Marvel #1 books have been really well. And DC still had some amazing success with some of their titles. But it's an interesting end to the year. Not as strong as it started. Definitely not as strong as in the middle. But, we'll have sometime mid-2000, sometime in January, mid-2000, let me rephrase that. Let me start this over. Sometime in mid-January 2016, we'll have not only Diamond's top list for the year, but also our top list for the year, and kind of give you guys some ideas on how the industry went. And, it's up. It's definitely up. We're not going to see it drop. We're up like 5 or 6 years in a row, the entire industry and the store. So, but it's always interesting to me, at least, to see how the industry goes. Obviously, Image has been very successful this year, and a lot of independent companies are doing good too. So, if there's any slack, I think it's getting picked up. All right, we're going to do some top lists here for TV shows and movies. TV shows, if you have 3 that are based on comic books, awesome. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to fill them in with other genre-ish shows. And, of course, any show you like from any category available on our honorable mentions. But we're a comic book podcast, goddammit, so no Blacklist can't be your number 1 show of the year because it could be your number 1 honorable mention. It's a genre show. It's not a comic book show. Unless you just hate all the comic book shows, and then what are you even doing on this podcast? So, Lane, why don't we start off with you?
Okay. Well, I had it sorted both ways, so I wasn't sure.
Whatever. Like I said, however you want to do it, it doesn't.
I mean, I'll just do straight comics. I have 3 is the Avengers, 2 is Ant-Man, and 1 is the one you absolutely hate, which is Kingsman.
TV shows. Did I say movies? TV shows.
Oh, sorry.
Start. We can start with movies. You already said it. Start with movies. So with movies, hold on. Let me put since we're going to change categories here. Top 3 movies of 2015. There are slightly different rules. No episode 7, because that may or may not top everyone's list, but other movies came out. Episode 7, of course, is there for everyone, I think. I don't think there's a person...
I feel like everybody already knows our opinion of episode 7 at this point.
Right, so let's leave episode 7 off the list. There were technically 4 comic book movies that came out this year. I'll spot you 2 of them as real comic book movies. I don't think we're going to count Kingsman and Fantastic Four, but, again, if you have 3, awesome. If you don't, fill in with honorable mentions, of course. Mm-hmm. Keep it genre, sci-fi, fantasy, geeky related.
Let's say you could possibly count the DC animated ones, but I didn't put those on the list.
Yeah, Maybe we'll have to add that's like an honorable mentions category. So no, theatrical releases.
I mean,
excluding Star Wars. So what? Give me your list again. Read that again.
Well, I mean, if we go by all the miscellaneous, I still say for me, just because of the fun factor, I know you hate it, but the fun factor and the silliness of Kingsman was still the one movie I enjoyed watching more than the rest of them, like multiple times.
That's awesome. I don't hate it. I just didn't see it. So yeah.
And then I guess number 2 for me would actually, if you want to go genre, would actually be the Mad Max Fury Road. I don't know. I think it's just more of a wow factor, just seeing and then knowing how they did everything behind the scenes. It's just amazing. And there was a comic based on it eventually.
Yep.
And then Ant-Man. Disregarding Star Wars, I mean, the only honorable mention would be the Toby's comic book movie known as Furious 7.
It's close enough. It's kind of nerdy. It's nerdy in a different way.
Well, it's so close to a comic, it might as well be one.
Right. Charlie. Oh, no, you.
No, that's my list.
That's it?
So for straight up comic book movies, I mean, it's just Ant-Man and Age of Ultron. Like, I still like Age of Ultron. I know that seems to be a weird issue in the community at the moment with that, but I still liked it. Overall, in terms of like other movies that I actually really enjoyed, I recently watched the latest Mission Impossible. I actually liked that one a lot.
Was that this year?
Yeah.
Wow, man, I completely forgot that was this year.
And out of nowhere, I'm also going to bring up Mr. Holmes, because that was a fun movie.
I don't even know what that is.
Yes, I just watched it. It was very good.
Yeah.
What is this?
Mr. Holmes is a Sherlock Holmes movie starring Ian McKellen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. What? Like, is this American made?
No, it was a
European.
Okay,
but I mean,
did it play here in the States?
Yes.
Yeah, and came out on Blu-ray recently.
I didn't even hear about this.
It's just a cool little story about an aging Sherlock Holmes with Alzheimer's trying to remember one of his cases, and yeah, it's just a very nifty movie, especially if you like Sherlock Holmes.
Huh? I missed that one. So, of course, episode 7, I'm sure, is on your honorable mentions list.
As I said, everybody already knows how I feel about episode 7.
Any other...
Did I tell you about that?
Maybe. I don't know.
So, after we recorded the episode 7 here, and I went home to record a Wanderers podcast...
Is it all about Star Wars?
We recorded the Wanderers podcast, and then we were going to just quickly talk about episode 7 at the end.
So 2 more hours?
We ended up talking about it long enough that we edited it out of the episode to release separately.
That's great.
So yes, my opinion of episode 7 is set in stone at this point.
Yeah, we ended up on the Geek Box last week. They talked about it for the entire episode with Ryan Scott April and Chris Noyes, who was also on our episode, or on our entire Star Wars podcast last week. Not specifically episode 7, which some people made that mistake. No, it was all about Star Wars and episode 7. We also talked about it for like half of this last episode because we were like, me and Adam were on, and so it was like, oh god, we've talked about Star Wars so friggin' much. I'm actually seeing it New Year's Eve day at the theater here that has the reserved seating and the big recliners and everything. So I'm very curious how that's going to be. I haven't been over there yet. So
Shoreline?
Yeah.
I just saw it there too.
Oh, did you? How do you like the theater?
Yeah, it's really good. Seats are really comfy.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll be curious how that goes. All right, so I could not choose 3 comic book movies to be in my top list, so I will be padding out my list with other amazing genre shows. Unfortunately, I've not seen Hateful Eight yet. I'm sure that would be on my honorable mentions list as well, or possibly top 3, but I'm definitely going to try to see that this week. But number 3, Ant-Man starring Paul Rudd, directed by Peyton Reed. Like Guardians, I was hoping it would be good. I had no idea. I thought the trailers were funny, but I was worried that maybe this was going to be something that kind of flopped. Ant-Man was goddamn fantastic. It's shocking to me that Age of Ultron, and I've talked about this a few times on the podcast, that Age of Ultron was, to me, the first crack in the Marvel movies. Iron Man 3 is a little different. That, to me, I think is more personal. I feel like Iron Man 3 is more well-reviewed than I feel it is. But Age of Ultron, yeah, there was some stuff in that just did not work, and Joss Whedon leaving the movie and all the kind of crap behind it, and you started the big fight between the different heads of Marvel and Disney and everything throughout that became apparent after the movie. It's weird. I'll be very curious to see what that movie, if it leads to anything else. I just don't know. Civil War, I'm hoping it's really good, but my interest is a little dulled because of Age of Ultron. But Ant-Man is fantastic. My number 2 kind of a genre geeky movie of 2015 is Inside Out, the Pixar movie directed by Pete Docter. I loved Inside Out. That was... I didn't expect much. I figured, it looks okay. I don't know. That movie is genius. Good Dinosaur, I didn't expect much, and I heard it's not good at all. So it's one of those things where it kind of could go one way or another.
I've heard good things about a Good Dinosaur. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things.
I think that for Pixar and the Disney animation stuff now, the expectations are so high that A Good Dinosaur, I feel like, probably from reviews I've heard and people I know have seen it, didn't quite hit. But Inside Out is a real deal. That is a great movie. If you have kids, I'm not sure how kids react to it.
My kids liked it.
It's about kids being sad, so maybe but whatever. It's fantastic. Definitely go see it. And like there's if episode 7 could be on this list, things would be bumped around a little bit different. But this is no question what my favorite movie this year is. That's Jurassic World, featuring Star-Lord himself, Chris Pratt, directed by Colin Trevorrow. Jurassic World was amazing. It's the episode 7 of Jurassic Park. It's stuff we know, remixed a little bit. It has a very similar story, some similar cues, but it's different, it's fresh, it's new. Oh, God, man, Jurassic World. And, Star Wars totally deserves to be Jurassic World. I'm blown away that Jurassic World made as much money as it did. But I loved Jurassic World. That last scene, oh, man. It has been a long time since I have become audible during a movie with my cheers for the heroics on the screen. Didn't happen during episode 7. Happened during Jurassic World. So that's all I'm going to say. I love this movie so much. I don't care if everyone else hates it. I fucking love it. Of course, Star Wars The Force Awakens is an honorable mention. Of course it is. Also, Mad Max Fury Road, directed by George Miller. I didn't see it in the theater. I'm really disappointed. I wanted to. It was time. I just didn't have a chance to go. It was gone pretty quick. If it gets re-released, especially on like an IMAX screen, like 2D IMAX, I'll totally go see it.
In that,
I would love to see it, especially the audio.
Yeah.
I really want to see it like or hear it with like the theater audio.
I would also say 3D, but I know you hate 3D.
Yeah, I can't. I don't.
But the 3D
I don't do
was
3D.
really good in that movie too.
Yeah. And this is another movie that I feel gets a bit of a bad rap. But I actually liked it quite a bit. I had my issues with it. It's not perfect, but I really liked it. And that was Tomorrowland, directed by Brad Bird. I walked out going, I'm not going to say it's like Green Lantern. And when I say it's like Green Lantern, Charlie's just laughing. I don't mean it in the way like it's the same plot or anything like that. I feel like it's a movie that it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but it's a fun movie. And this sort of like weird viral negative review started happening around this movie. And I'm like, but all these other movies that are way worse than this get judged way more lenient. And Tomorrowland, like, got people hated on it that never saw it. Right? Green Lantern got hated from people that never saw it. And a lot of movies, this happens to a lot of stuff. But I felt like the hate for Tomorrowland came from people that either misunderstood it or never saw it. And so I don't quite know why it got reviewed so negatively. It's not flawless, but it's not as bad as people thought. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
I totally agree. I actually saw it recently on Blu-ray, and my expectations, because of all the negativity around it, were not very high, but I found myself getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. So I was kind of...
I'm going to compare it to another recent Disney movie, and that's John Carter.
Oh, yeah. John Carter pisses me off.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a legitimately good movie. Yeah. And I don't know what happened to that movie, but everyone decided they hated it.
Well,
John Carter was so much fun. Yeah. I don't get the hate for that movie at all.
What pisses me off about that movie so much is I love that movie, and what happened is people translated the bombing at the box office, meaning not making money at the box office, to it must be a bad movie.
Yeah.
And that kills me. Like, there's a huge difference between not performing at the box office and being a bad movie.
I feel like John Carter got a bit of revival on DVD. I think more people ended up seeing it. I have a feeling that it still was probably financially a failure, but I kind of get the feeling that it got some redemption down the road. Once it was out of the theater, I feel like I talked to a lot of people that saw it and liked it now. Way more than I was hearing from people when it was out in the theater. So, and I wonder if Tomorrowland will have a similar sort of, I don't want to say cult following, but some movies people just don't get into when it comes out, and then a couple years later, it's like, oh, hey, this is cool. Oh yeah, this actually is pretty good now that I watched it and don't care about the hype or the hate, I guess.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with Tomorrowland actually is just because everybody kind of immediately kind of goes to sort of the Pirates franchise, and they immediately think Disney's trying to set up their next franchise that way. And yeah, if you go to a movie with it in mind being like, oh, well, Disney's just trying to cash in on another franchise, it's going to cloud your judgment to a degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, now let's move on to our final topic of this podcast, and that is our top 3 TV shows of 2015. Of course, comic books comic book related if you got them. There's enough of them now. You should be able to find 3 in there that you like. And, of course, all your honorable mentions can go at the end for any genre you like. Although, a lot of us watch a lot of genres, TV shows, so I'm sure it'll be... who hasn't started in a while? I get Charlie, why don't you start us off here?
So comics I found fairly easy. Movies, extremely easy. Television shows, though, was just... it was painful.
Too many. Television, this is...
Too many good.
This is the golden age of television. My honorable mentions list, I had 20 shows on my honorable mention list.
And I mean, so what I kind of settled on, and part of this is cheating just because I kind of went with the jumping around a little bit in terms of the way they were presented. So I picked one from each. Okay. Jessica Jones is there, Flash is there, and Agent Carter is there. I kind of feel like that's a good sort of balanced list.
Yep.
But yes, there's a part of me that's dying a little inside. The Arrow's not on that list, and Walking Dead's not on that list, and iZombie's not on that list, and Gotham's not on, just so much good genre TV show, and
I think it's
Ash
safe to
vs.
say
Evil Dead. Love that show, and it's not on my list.
Well, comic book wise, now with the honorable mentions, of course, if you're going to say your top 3 comic, those are your top 3 comic ones. Now, I think it's fair to say there's not a bad show on television right now based on comic books. In some fashion or other, Gotham has had a very strong second season. I think this is one of the best seasons of Walking Dead. Did we get the finale of Constantine this year, or was that last year?
May have been the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, so the Netflix stuff is big. I mean, maybe you don't like Walking Dead, maybe you don't like Gotham, maybe you don't like Supergirl, but there has been success across the board on every single one of these shows. So, hard to pick.
Yeah, and that's why it's just one of those things that, most of the shows I watch that fall within this category deserve to be on a top list. Well, there's just so many of them.
Well, what's your honorable mentions list? I'm sure you've got all sorts of shows that you want to throw a little praise to as well. Because
Arrow, obviously, Supergirl, Gotham... Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead were good. Ash vs. Evil Dead, I like that show.
I got to catch up. I've only watched the first one. I
absolutely love that show.
It definitely got better. It definitely got better past the first
the way the last episode ended, again, just has me going, crap.
Is it done?
Season finale is next week.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I'll see if I can get caught up at the
end. Yeah. I really, really, really like that show, and I'm so glad it was pre-renewed for a second season.
Oh, I was going to say, personally, I was going to ask you, I think the half-hour format kind of hurts it, though. So I really would think it should be an hour.
Well, this is what gets me about the half-hour format, is I feel like it's being produced, and the way it plays actually is almost intended for a binge-watching kind of thing.
Yes.
The half-hour format's not really the issue. It's the fact that the way they've presented it means it's going to play really, really well on a Blu-ray release.
It's like a 6-hour movie.
Basically, yeah. And with that in mind and sort of understanding that, I can kind of set that aside to a degree. It's one of those things where there's a difference to me on shows like Flash and Arrow and that kind of stuff that have full seasons. They kind of have stories that kind of go in and out and have to hit certain notes and put in some filler. And when you get something like a 10-episode half-hour season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, that's much more similar to me of something like Agent Carter and that kind of stuff, where it's much more focused. They know where they're starting, they know where they're ending, and they are sort of telling the story of how they get there. So, yeah, I totally kind of agree with you that it always feels like it's over way too fast, but I can already tell that when I sit down at the end of the season and watch them all back to back, it's just going to work fabulously.
Any other honorable mentions there?
I'm sure there's 1.5 billion I'm forgetting.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who's always at a whole nother level. Like you have your honorable mentions, your top comic book, but Doctor Who is...
What's your favorite Doctor Who TV show of this year? Is it Doctor Who?
Yes.
Over there you go. Lane, if you got 3 comics, give us 3 comics. Otherwise, and then give us your honorable. Yeah. If you got 3. If you got 3 that are your favorites.
Well, I mean, most of them are probably the obvious ones. The Walking Dead, Supergirl. But probably the one you haven't mentioned is... I actually love the new season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay. Yeah, you and Toby have both been talking this up. I haven't started it yet. I'm going to watch it. I just haven't started it yet.
Yeah, this first half season has been really, really good.
Good.
Granted, I don't know if it's going to be the same in the second half, but fingers crossed it is.
Well, that's great to hear because, I wanted to love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, the Marvel movies have been so good. It just stumbled out of the gate. Got better a little bit, and then season 2 just kind of was like, all right. And then to me, I hated the end of season 2 so much. Yeah. So I was just not interested in starting the new season. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
but.
It felt like 2 seasons were all just lead up for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and to me, a large part of this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is I kind of compare it to Angel. Like it feels much closer to sort of a well-defined, driven show that you kind of had with Angel, especially in the later seasons. Mm-hmm. So I have definitely been enjoying it, even though at this point I have no clue where they're going to go with it when it comes back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure.
You have some honorable mentions there, too?
Honorable mentions outside of comics? Well, besides Game of Thrones, obviously, another big one. Something I did it last year, but the same thing is season 2 of Black Sails for me got even better than season 1.
I hear that's a really good show.
It was amazing, and can't wait for season 3, which starts in a few weeks.
Oh, cool!
And it stars Ray Stevenson, so that's going to be. I'm really looking forward to that. And then one that's outside of here would be if you haven't heard of it, you have to check out an anime called One Punch Man.
Oh, yeah.
So I apparently was mistaking that for something else. I think I even maybe mentioned on this podcast, people were talking about One Punch Man, and I'm like, hey, it's like an old anime. Like, they do a new version of it. I was thinking of something else, obviously, because this is brand new. This is a new manga, new anime. And, yeah, I've heard it's one of the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just wrapped up their season recently, too. And
yes.
Yeah, it was... It was very good. Very entertaining.
Yeah. If you're a comic reader, I mean, you don't have to know much about anime, although it helps, but even a comic reader you will follow along all the beats, and you will empathize with everything going on.
Yeah. I definitely want to start it because I've been slowly making my way through Attack on Titan, and not been clicking with me the way I think it's clicked with everyone else. I find it really slow and kind of dull. There's some great scenes when they kind of get into combat with the Titans, but some of that anime stuff let me rephrase that. There's some of the problems with anime that are in this show that I find in a lot of anime that I watch, where it's just filler episodes and just lots of drawn out dialogue, and there's like parts of it that just don't click with me in that first season, but I am going to finish watching it. I just was expecting, I don't know, I think I was expecting something different. Because the people that I know that have said they watched it are traditionally not anime fans, so I feel like, this seems like something a lot of people I know would have got really bored with. I don't know. But I'm going to finish watching Attack on Titan eventually. Mm-hmm. I'm just very slow on watching it. But One Punch Man I've heard almost universal praise for, so...
Yeah. I'd be curious to see, if you just watched the first episode, just curious to see what you think, because one grabs so many people, just that first episode alone.
Well, like the first episode of Attack on Titan, I thought was fantastic, right? The first couple, and then it kind of gets into some weird stuff that just, I don't know, wasn't working for me. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, One Punch Man is pretty much just action straight through, so cool. It's a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, they keep a lot of it super, super simple and don't get complicated at all. And that's one of the strengths of the show is it's a fun little adventure to watch.
Yeah.
Just a word of warning, though, don't read the manga.
Bad or just because
there's 2 versions of the manga. So apparently the writer started. He's supposed to be a really good writer. He found an artist. Let's just say the artist draws like a 5th grader.
Okay.
To give him praise. And so when people realized how good a series it was, they went, this stuff is horrible to look at. And so they rehired an actual mangaka artist to go back. So if you look at the very first stuff, it looks like horrendous.
Yeah.
Because it was a webcomic at first. And
okay.
It looks really funny. And then, although some of it got left in, like, that's why he looks so silly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the original manga you have to kind of take with a grain of salt.
Sure.
And then, I think that, also I would say Into the Badlands was kind of fun.
Yeah. That
was a good replacement.
I liked a lot of the action sequences and the overall tone in that. And you find that tone in a lot of comic books and stuff, too, with, like, East of West and that kind of stuff. So,
well, it's done by the Smallville guys, so I'm not surprised it has that same kind of tone. And then that's pretty much it for movie. Although I was going to say, I forgot one more, which is also along the lines of a movie, or TV, which is Man from U.N.C.L.E. was the movie based on the old TV show.
That bombed, huh?
It did okay, but
did it?
I think it was one of the most hilarious films I've seen in a while.
Cool.
And
I didn't hear much about it.
Had Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer, so you've got your comic connection there.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's my list.
All right, for me, number 3, Supergirl, which is on NBC. Had, I was hoping it'd be good. Didn't have a ton of expectations for it. I love it. Especially with the reveal kind of the last couple episodes. It's just kicked it up just a whole nother notch. But man, fun, funny, witty, nice. It's not, everything I watch is dark. Everything I watch is dark, right? I love it. But man, it's cool to just be like, it's just kind of a nice superhero show. And then Flash, in a lot of ways, is some similarities.
Yeah, it's coming back early next year.
Yeah. And I hope it's a success. It seems it's very fun. I definitely know a lot of people that started it, didn't care for it, and have kind of changed their tune on it. So they don't like Flash and Arrow. They feel like, we just do whatever the hell we want, right? I mean, there's no point of wasting time building up fake characters. It's like, sure, we'll just have Bizarro Supergirl's going to be in an episode fairly soon. They obviously introduced a major DC character into the show. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it yet. But, yeah, so, they're not messing around with the show at all. Supergirl's a ton of fun. Speaking of very dark shows, Jessica Jones on Netflix. Gun in my head, Jessica Jones or Daredevil, and I'm picking Jessica Jones. I really like Jessica Jones. Daredevil was good. Definitely an honorable mention. But to me, Jessica Jones is better. Less superhero-y. It just felt like just a raw, like kind of that, I don't want to say that cop show, but those elements of it. Obviously, David Tennant's fantastic. Great show. Just very dark. And number 1, I wasn't sure, but yeah, I have to. It's still The Flash. The Flash is my favorite show, period. It's just perfect. The first episode of the season was so first we have the end of last season, which was awesome, just across the board. And especially that last episode was one of the best episodes I've ever seen on television, of anything. With the whole time travel and going in the vortex and all that stuff. And this season, first episode started off I was like, I don't know about this. But you know what? Whatever bump they had in the road for the season, I feel like it's completely fixed. All the Earth 2 villains coming in this season. Zoom is a creepy ass villain. I really like what they're doing with him, and the potential now we're leading into Legends of Tomorrow. They had the Flash Arrow crossover again, which was so good. The second one was so much fun. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be Flash. Flash is just such a fun show. I don't know what'll ever beat it. Maybe something, but if they keep this going, I can't see something getting better for me. Honorable mentions for me, all over the place this year. Fargo Season 2 on FX. If anyone's not watching Fargo, oh my God. Oh, yeah.
Catching up now.
It's such a good show. I feel like this season, I saw some reviews that said this was better than Season 1. I disagree. I actually think this was slightly not as good as season 1. If season 1 was an A+, this was an A. It's still a fantastic show. They pull a Game of Thrones where all the big shit happens in the second to last episode, not the last episode. I felt like that was maybe a mistake because the last episode to me didn't hit as hard as I think the last episode of season 1 did. But Fargo is easily one of my favorite shows on TV. Must watch. I'm only a couple episodes into it, but I'm going to recommend Man in the High Castle, which is streaming on Amazon. Great. It's only 10 episodes. I'm on 4 or 5, so, maybe it turns to shit. I have no idea. But what I've seen so far, really good, based on a Philip K. Dick novel about the Nazis and the Germans, the Nazis and the Japanese taking over America post World War II. Really good. What else we got here? Obviously Daredevil on Netflix, very fun show. That was this year, right? That was earlier this year. Okay, yeah. Sad to see it go, but Hannibal was on NBC. Final season of Hannibal was on. If Fargo was the most underrated show that's been on TV this decade, Hannibal is the number 2 most underrated show on TV this decade. If that was on HBO, as is, no nudity, no extra swearing, as is, I think it would have been a huge hit. Hannibal is such a... Speaking of earlier about me talking about all these dark shows I like, the darkest show I think I've ever seen. It's so graphic and so violent, but it's so good. Mads Mikkelsen is... He's the best Hannibal ever, period. No question asked. He's great.
Yeah, it was a great show. Yep. Lasted 3 seasons, and it got a chance to sort of wrap up the way it...
They compressed 3 and 4 into season 3. They did kind of speed it up, but it
got
still
an
worked.
ending,
yeah.
So it doesn't feel like everything was left hanging or anything like that, which I always appreciate because I could see sort of having it in a collection and going back to every once in a while just because it's got the bookends basically.
Yeah. I do love The Daily Show, but I'm going to give the nod to Last Week Tonight on HBO. That is John Oliver is amazing. That show is so funny. It gets a little deeper than Daily Show too. Mm-hmm. That's my news source. Is Last Week Tonight. Obviously, Game of Thrones, HBO. What are you going to say about Game of Thrones? It's always going to be one of the best shows on TV. And I've watched the show from the very beginning. If you asked me up to the finale or maybe the last 2 episodes, I would have said this was the absolute best season ever. The finale maybe wasn't as strong as the rest of the season. However, this season of South Park, probably the best season they've ever done. And that is saying something because South Park has had some killer episodes and seasons before. This is the second season they've done where there's actually continuity the entire season. And this season, they decided to take on various topics that would be trending on Twitter throughout the course of the year. This was the best season of South Park ever. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Either you're in the South Park or you're not, but man, there's a line from Parker and Stone going back. I can't remember paraphrasing here. They're like, yeah, we hate conservatives, but we hate liberals even more. So, they rip on just so much stuff this season. It was so funny. So funny. It's always been great. This was something very special. So, if you don't watch South Park normally, watch the first couple episodes of this season. I definitely recommend it. So that's it. That was 2015. I watched a lot of goddamn TV this year. I've read a little less comic books, and I didn't see quite as many movies, but man, a lot of good stuff this year. What a great year.
That's okay. You're just going to make up for it by watching Star Wars over and over and over.
Oh, and I didn't see Doctor Who. Of course, Doctor Who, best, what a redeeming season. To me, better than the Matt Smith stuff, and definitely better than last season. Hands down, one of my favorite seasons of Doctor Who. I can't believe I forgot that. So, because we were talking about it earlier, I figured that would be on Charlie's list, but it wasn't. It threw me off. Anyway, next week, assuming everyone's back, Brock and Bryce are on vacation. Toby's gonna saddle up with them. They'll be back next week for all their top picks for 2015. And the week or two after that, we're going to have all the sales charts, breakdowns, bestsellers of the year, look at the industry. We have a lot of news to cover from various bits from the last month. We have a lot of Marvel #1s to talk about. So all sorts of random stuff that we've got to deal with coming up for the next for the next year. It'll be like end of January, and we'll still be talking about 2015. How terrible. We're the worst. Well, and of course we have to thank all our good friends from Patreon, including one of our top tier backers. That's Albert Soy. He's got that app called Plant Everywhere. Make sure you go check that out. And Albert was nice enough to pick me up a day of Christmas pin from Disneyland because I left right before then, and he was going down there. And then he's back again. He was there, and then he left, and then he's back again. I'm like, you've been to Disneyland twice since I left. No, I need to go back. We have to go back. But if you want to give
sounding a little lost right now.
I am. If you want to give him money to go to Disneyland, go to planteverywhere.com. Or, go to his app, Plant Everywhere. Maybe planteverywhere.com is his website. I don't know. He didn't tell me. I only know the name of his app, and that's Plant Everywhere.
From Disneyland.
And, of course, Jody Lawson at Canon, the Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicstudios.com. Make sure you go support those guys, pick up their webcomics, and, read all that stuff. It is great. I haven't, like I said, there was some talk of us changing the Patreon stuff for next year. I haven't quite got that worked out yet. So if you go to patreon.com/comic-conspiracy right now, you can still donate as little as $1 a month. Help us support the podcast. Of course, various tiers get you various other things. So make sure to go do that.
So translation, if you have any suggestions, send them to Ryan now.
Well, it's hard to do the physical reward thing. Doesn't really work out too well for us. The pimping of people is cool, but the advertisement stuff is fine. But we're trying to think of something else. I don't know. If you got any suggestions, let me know. Anyway, this episode and all our previous episodes available at geekbox.net and on iTunes. Be sure to go rate and review us. Forums at geekbox.net and the Geekbox and Comic Conspiracy Facebook group. That is where you can talk to all of our wonderful people. And Lane will be publishing the artwork for these amazing t-shirts he made for us for the podcast. Thank you very much, Lane, on that Facebook group. So make sure you check that out. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. That's where you can go buy all your digital comic books. It's linked to your Comixology account. So if you have a Comixology account, if you got a brand new iPad for Christmas and you're reading comics and Comixology, well, now you can go on there. You can subscribe to titles. You subscribe once through our store. You never have to go back. You automatically get the issue billed to you every single month. You can gift from our store. You want to give your friend a copy of this book you just read? Boom, you go to our store, you buy it, redeem as gift, gives you a little code, send it to them. We still get the credit. We get it instead of, Microsoft or Apple. We need the money. They don't. We need it more than them. I mean, I guess I still technically need the money, but we also need it. So give it to us instead of them. And now you can log on with your Amazon account to Comixology. They're all linked. So if you have, and who doesn't have an Amazon account, now you get Comixology on there as well. It's very easy to buy digital comics from us. And a lot of people do. So keep doing it. Again, patreon.com/comic-conspiracy. Go there and give us a little bit of money if you want to do it the old-fashioned way. It's like a tip. It's like a tip jar. conspiratorBrock.com. That's Brock's blog. He'll be back next week. Infinite Longbox Podcast and The Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension Podcast. Those are Charlie's podcasts. I don't know what they're laughing about. Apparently, it's also a Star Wars podcast now, too. Do I just
Infinite Longbox, I have no clue when gets published or doesn't get published these days.
Yeah, it's up whenever it's up.
Yeah.
That's been a while. That's been for a while now. Yeah.
You should just reverse the order at least, because if you go look for Wanderers,
it's always up.
It's always there. We've never missed a week.
And don't forget, my beautiful wife, Leanne Hill, and her Etsy shop at etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. Actually, just today, someone picked up an original commission by her, so go on there. Prints commissioned. She just finished a lovely Frozen one for this holiday season. If you're in the festive mood, you can pick up a little piece of original Frozen art from her, or a print of Frozen art from her. Twitter, I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock is Brock Zager. Bryce is Larson Bryce. Toby's Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. Lane doesn't use Twitter, or maybe you do.
I have an account, but I don't do
use
much on it.
All right.
Yeah.
Stalk people to follow us and see if you can figure out who Lane is. The Geekbox Comedy Button. Good job, Brandon. The All Talk Podcast. as well as Manga Machinations. Those are other podcasts on our little Geekbox network. Make sure to go check those guys out. And thank you, everyone, for a wonderful 2015. Give us a few weeks. We'll tell you how wonderful it is. And we'll be back next week for more best ofs. And Happy New Year.